Now everybody in power talks like that. Diversity is our strength. Trans women are women. Zelensky is Churchill. It's all self-evidently true. Doesn't need an explanation, and don't ask questions. That's the pap they're serving us day after day in steaming, lumpy portions. By this point, it's possible that American citizens are the least informed people in the world. Your average yak herder in Tajikistan knows who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. It's obvious. Does he think some skinny dude in a dress is actually a girl?
Wait. Okay, so you know the voice. Speaking of lumpy steaming piles, that's Tucker Carlson on his new show, Tucker on Twitter. That's right, here's a little logo, Tucker on Twitter. Amazing, fancy, incredible. And he's in, I don't know if it's his barn or his like second barn or some kind of tool shed, but there he is. And he is giving his monologue that feels very similar, if not even a little bit more unmoored than his normal slop. And that is, let's be hateful towards trans people and then stick in a bunch of Kremlin talking points and talk about how we shouldn't be supporting Ukrainian sovereignty at all, and the United States is the ones who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Like that's what he's saying. I don't know, Ravana, did you catch that? That's the sort of the grand narrative he was trying to do. Like, yeah, man in a dress, Putin didn't do the mess, you know?
Right, yeah, and obviously the people who have who are most capable of providing that information to you are yak herders in Tajikistan.
For sure. There is of course more, but this is by the way, this is episode 1. So he tweeted this video with all he said was Ep1. So again, there's probably more of all of that slop. And most of this 10-minute rant was about a dam in Ukraine that was destroyed in the war. Unclear, both President Zelensky and President Putin are blaming one another. But right now, actually, in Ukraine, people are being flooded. There is unsafe drinking water for 500,000 people. Folks are evacuating en masse. It is a serious situation. Of course, Tucker is using this again to bizarrely and very strangely just prop up the Russian side of the war. So a couple, let's just watch the second stop before we talk about the platform.
What's happened to the hundreds of billions of US dollars we've sent to Ukraine? No clue. Who organized those BLM riots 3 years ago? No one's gotten to the bottom of that. What exactly happened on 9/11? Well, it's still classified. How did Jeffrey Epstein make all that money? How did he die? How about JFK? And so endlessly on. Yesterday, for example, a former Air Force officer who worked for years in military intelligence came forward as a whistleblower to reveal that the US government has physical evidence of crashed non-human made aircraft, as well as the bodies of the pilots who flew those aircraft. The Pentagon has spent decades studying these otherworldly remains in order to build more technologically advanced weapons systems. Okay, that's what the former intel officer revealed, and it was clear he was telling the truth. In other words, UFOs are actually real, and apparently so is extraterrestrial life.
Okay, so he hit all the buckets. Was 9/11 in there, or did they make that up? I think there was 9/11 was in there. There's UFOs, which we just discussed, so he might be right on that one. You got Epstein in there, and then you've got the who did all the riots 3 years ago. Like, you know who? You spent every single night bashing them. It's the wokies, remember? It's people who are gonna be like, the Biden minions. You think who are the Biden minions? They're people who are for racial justice, man. They're protesting against police brutality. Hello, somebody. Anyway, so there he was continuing there, just to give you a sort of like a flavy flav of like the unhingedness of Tucker Carlson. Now, I have to say, I do feel like his writers, they're not the ones striking, by the way, because you know they're not in the WGA. But like the writers at Fox, maybe at least there was some sort of like some kind of cohesiveness to the argument. You're not having that here on Tucker on Twitter. But Elon Musk, of course, the saddest boy on the internet, tweeted particularly about Tucker Carlson, on this platform, unlike the one-way street of broadcast, people are able to interact, critique, and refute whatever is said. And of course, anything misleading will get community notes. I also want to be clear that we have not signed a deal of any kind whatsoever. Tucker is subject to the same rules and rewards of all content creators. Rewards means subscriptions and advertising revenue share coming soon. Sure. Lies, which is a function of how many people subscribe and the advertising views associated with the content. I hope that many others, particularly from the left, Ravana, also choose to be content creators on this platform. Because people are making lots of money on it, but like not yet.
Coming soon.
Coming soon is gonna. Ray, before we started, you were talking about why is Tucker Carlson on Twitter? Give me your thoughts on like, other than now it's a place that brings all the fascists to the yard. Like why would you be on Twitter?
Right. So first of all, I don't buy for 1 second that there isn't some sort of deal that Elon isn't, I mean, maybe even out of his own pocket, because Twitter's bleeding money right now. They're just absolutely hemorrhaging revenue. But so I wouldn't be surprised if he's just paying out of his own pocket to Tucker. There is a deal. Otherwise, because I'm sorry, Tucker Carlson, obviously not safe to be broadcast on Fox News. They made that determination and he eventually pissed off the wrong people. But he could absolutely make his own YouTube channel unless he's bound by contract to not do it with Fox News, which is possible.
Right.
But and actually be making money. There's no way to monetize Twitter. Like he said, it's coming soon. So that feature hasn't even been enabled yet. Subscriptions on Twitter is ridiculous front that no one's doing. Like every day on my feed, I get the first sentence of a Krasenstein tweet. Then the rest is paywalled. No one's paying money to see that. But no one is going to Twitter to watch long form content. I think it's the goofiest idea that someone's scrolling Twitter with the intention of watching Matt Walsh's 90-minute documentary or even, a 10-minute video.
Oh God.
It's absurd. And it's also, I want to give a quick compliment to the production value of Tucker on Twitter. I think it's really great that the producers made sure his face was the same color as the wall behind him and the lighting was as horrendous as it was. Just everything going into it is hysterical.
Yeah, it is too much. But my favorite part of the whole thing is he's not explicitly talking about Fox, right? He's not calling out Fox News. He's not gonna address why he was let go. And I'm sure everyone wants to know. But he does sort of, there's a lot of subtweeting, a lot of shade being thrown at Fox News and mainstream media, which he would talk about mainstream media even when he was on mainstream media. But he's basically like, they're distracting you with a bunch of other stories when the real stuff is gonna be over here on Tucker on Twitter.